Hi, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken.
Hey, Kiernan.
How are you, Ryan?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
You know, I'm sick again. I mean, just the sickness. Just every week there's a new sickness.
Oh my gosh. This is like a new theme of the podcast.
I've got the nasal thing going. You're going to hear it. I mean, I gotta acknowledge it. It's an audio medium.
Yeah, well, I thought maybe this was just your voice now. This is like your...
No, you will be in danger of cold and flu as well, of course, because this is the rare episode where we don't need to do a Judy alert. In fact, Judy should be doing a Kiernan alert.
I know. I'm here in Maryland's Eastern Shore in my mom's Airbnb, which is not active during the winter. And yeah, it's nice to be home here in the freezing cold Eastern Shore.
And are you getting anywhere else stateside while you're here? Is this just a way stop on the way back to South America?
I saw Reagan International. You know,
sure.
that was nice. And
but you're not going to New York. You're not going to Philadelphia. This is like a real just family trip.
Yeah, you know, I'm a very family oriented guy. So
you spend the holidays with your family. You're with mom?
We celebrate the Orthodox holidays.
As we record, this is February 3rd. What the only holiday
Groundhog Day
on February 3rd? Nope, it's the feast of Saint Blaise, the Catholic saint of throats. And people go to church. And Ryan, I know where you were going with that. I don't like that. No, people go to church and they hold candlesticks on either side of your throat, and the priest gives you a blessing, and then you don't have throat sicknesses that year.
Well, you should have done that this year.
I've always been weird. I've never understood why Saint Blaise gets this ritual, and like Catholics really know about that. And what is it about? I mean, all the saints have all these crazy things that go on with them. Why Saint Blaise at like the top of the calendar to have people come in and get the blessings? I'm
hearing about this for the first time. I was here with my mom because we celebrate Groundhog Day as a family, and it's important for me to.
Do you guys lift each other out of the ground
and look for our shadows? Yeah. Yeah.
This isn't your actual first time of hearing the Feast of St. Blaise, though, right?
I don't know that. I don't think they do that at St. Francis.
They do. Oh, okay. You gotta.
I'm gonna check.
Online. Guys, this is something worth traveling for. You want to look for a great St. Blaise festival close to you. Go to the mass. You get the candles. It's great.
Yeah,
I could use one. I'm feeling a little scratchy down there. I could use a little intervention right now.
Yeah, I mean, it can't hurt. I mean, it could. It could burn you. But.
And now, where will you be going? When and where will you be going from Maryland?
I am flying to Mexico to be with my boyfriend over the Valentine's Day holiday. He's flying in from Bogota, and then we're going to Puerto Vallarta, and then back to Bogota for the foreseeable future.
Wow. Okay. Hunkering down again. Time of the European sojourn is over for now.
That was a long trip. That was a lot of cities.
It seemed long. I felt, you seemed tired, I would say.
I was pretty tired.
We are.
I had an amazing time in Florence, which we have to do an episode about. But it is such a city that I felt like I barely touched it. You know.
Oh, I'm sure. Because how long were you there?
Just like 3 days.
Yeah. I'm off to ski at the end of this week. We're heading up to Stowe, Vermont. We've talked about Stowe before. Hell, I'll throw it in the show notes because a lot of New Englanders will be heading towards that Stowe area. This is the rare year where the skiing on the East Coast is better than the skiing on the West Coast. You're seeing all over my social media. I don't know if you're plugged into ski Instagram, but
I am not.
The big thing for influencers to be posting this year is they'll write my non-cancelable picture to Park City, and then it's just like this tiny little strand of snow on all this mud on either side, and they've got their skis in the mud. It's very dramatic.
They really don't cancel if there's no snow.
You know, I mean, it depends how you book. It depends how you book. Skiing's hard for that. It's very hard to know. And you know what? I'll even throw a link to our traveling to ski episode. Remember when we did that last winter?
Oh, I do. I learned a lot.
Now, Ryan, one today we're tackling a topic that we're both very passionate about. Obviously, we're passionate skiers, fitting for right now while the Winter Olympics is going on, but we're also quite passionate about food.
Yes, we love food and we love interesting food and cultural food experiences. Yeah, we love it all.
I do have a question. I do. Yeah, so we're both going to cover. We've both brought three food experiences that stand out in our mind from our travels. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about certain cuisines that jumped out, and there's a long list of maybes to be included on this. I remember particularly when I was in Bhutan, the like rural folks who are out in the fields, like doing God's work all day. They carry a piece of dried yak cheese as a necklace, and it's like this big hunk. Picture like Parmesan, like a big wedge of Parmesan, but dried out to like the absolute. There's no moisture left, and they just suck on that, and they bite off a piece that you basically rehydrate in your mouth over the hours that you're chewing it. But I decided not to put that on the list, so I just pushed it up here to the A block.
Yeah, that's different
I
for
tried
sure.
it, and it was a memorable food experience. It was like having some rawhide in your mouth, but it's very convenient, very portable.
Yeah, I
Here's the question I have for you. You're well known on the podcast for enjoying the top 50 places on earth to get a
yeah.
burger and that kind of stuff. You love lists and like kind of box
Uh,
checking where food's
we star
concerned.
collecting. We prefer to call it. Yeah,
What do you call it?
star collecting.
What's star collecting?
And Michelin star collecting.
I've never heard that. Is that what you
Uh,
people call it?
yeah, you're a star collector. Yeah, yeah.
Is that a real thing, or did you just
That's
make
a
that
real
up?
thing.
And
I
who
didn't
who
make it up.
uses that phrase?
People I know and people.
Who? Who? Name one person.
I
Chase
am not.
Whiteside. Is
I
that who
am
you're
not.
gonna say?
I am not going to name any people, but
All
I'm just
right. So
saying.
nobody calls it star collecting except Ryan. We can. That's a future episode. The sad group of star collectors, of hobbying star collectors. No. Here's a question that I have for you. It's twofold. The first is, I really don't know because you and I have traveled a bit together, but not to exotic places. We've never been together to like a really far away trip or like a culture that is so foreign to the two of us. And are you?
Kentucky.
We ate very well in Kentucky.
Yeah, we
Oh,
did.
yeah.
Yeah, foreign
Um, uh,
culture though. But yeah,
all
great
right. You
food.
know what? I'll even throw in the show notes a link to our old Louisville episode, which incorporates also Mammoth Cave National Park. Now, Ryan, which is why, by the way, it has a great story about going out to eat with Ryan, where he tries to talk to a taco place about a particular type of super special Mexican taco that you could only get in Mexico City. And the guy looks at him like, "What? Who are you? Go back to Mexico City."
It was literally a gringo, folks. It's not that special.
It was rough. Okay, now Ryan, here's my question. I've got it. When you travel to a culture that has food that's very different than ours, and they have foods that we might consider challenging, say food that incorporates blood, for example. Are you an adventurous eater where you'll try something just to try it and see if you might like it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel obligated. Yeah, sure. I mean,
Okay, you feel obligated. Wow.
I've eaten worms and caterpillars and ants,
Yeah,
and
worms. What was the worm? What was the context of the worm?
that was in a tasting menu in Quito, and one of the dishes was just it was a nice cooked like plump kind of worm, but it was like fuzzy, so I don't know if it was a caterpillar worm. It was green, and it was it, and I, I'm not going to say I enjoyed it,
Sure. Sure, but you
but
tried it. Okay,
I
that
ate
that
it.
really
Yeah.
answers the question. And then the second piece I have now, I know you do this in Mexico City, but I don't have a feel for, because you are a star collector. Because you're a star collector, do you mix in a good amount of like street food, and like how much are you focused on the highest end?
No, I mean almost all like breakfast or lunch will be like little cafes or street food or sandwiches and Milan, like whatever's like the normal kind of chill places. I love to see that.
Yeah, I'm a real obsessive. I'm always looking for best sandwich in a place and best
Yeah.
bakery in a
Yeah.
place.
Boy, does Italy do sandwiches well.
Well, do tell, I because I don't think you have any of those featured today. So what did you discover of Italian sandwiches?
Oh, I mean, they love a sandwich. They always have just incredible cured meats and cheeses with fresh bread and you know, it's really just like a snack. So you'll just kind of grab a little sandwich at a cafe while it's just lovely. Yeah, I love the sandwich culture of Italy.
All right, I have one last question before we jump into
Prosciutto.
the cured meat of the episode, which is I do have to know because we're going to be talking about food. Are we currently on the Ozempic schedule, or are we taking a break right now?
No, I was off for some of the holiday, but now no, I'm back on.
You're
You know,
back on.
yeah, I'm on my fighting weight. You know,
Wow, wow. And could you feel? Did you put on a little weight during the holidays, and you now?
well, I think it was I didn't end up putting on that much weight because I walked so much. Like some days I was walking like 15, 20,000 steps, like, you know, 4 or 5 days in a row. So I think I was just burning way more calories. So I didn't really gain that much weight, but I did eat a lot more.
I was going to be impressed. I thought when you said 15, I thought, wow, this guy's walking 15 miles. That became
Oh,
15,000 steps. I'm like,
that's
I thought
seven and a half miles. That's a lot of miles.
yeah, yeah. All right, Ryan. Well, I think it's time for us to dive in and talk about some of our most memorable food experiences while traveling.
Tell the cabin crew.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
So before, I think this will be one of the ones where you've got one, I've got one, you've got two, I've got two, and we'll pass back and forth. And then what's really fun in this episode is we've got one shared one to cap it off. So we'll be doing 7 spotlights here. But let me ask, Ryan, I'm sure you struggled with the same thing I did, which is what exactly was the criteria you were using to consider it a special food experience?
I think a combination of, you know, the setting and the food, and sometimes even how I got there, and just sort of how unique the food is in the culture, and how much I liked it.
And so aesthetics, is that any piece
Oh
of it?
yeah. Oh, aesthetics
See,
is a
okay,
huge
yes.
part
You
of it.
were
Yeah.
see, I was very focused on flavors and
Yeah.
especially discovery of things that I didn't know I liked. That was like, because when I think of memorable food experiences, that feels like a door opening.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think we approached it in different ways, but there'll be a lot of overlap in how we talk about our experiences.
All right, well, lead the way, Ryan. What is your first most memorable food experience?
Okay, I want to talk about this really cool food experience I had in Mexico City a few years ago, and it's called Arca Tierra. And this isn't like a typical restaurant. It's in Xochimilco, the floating gardens of
Oh,
Mexico
yes. Yeah,
City.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And so you actually have to take one of
Well,
those.
what are you should say what the floating gardens are.
Yeah. So there are these super colorful canals in Mexico City that tourists and locals go, and you rent a boat and you sort of go around these canals and you party with your friends, and there's music and there's drinking and there's a little marijuana smoking, and people just having
I'm sorry.
I know it's out of control. People just having a good time. And there's throughout people selling like beers and food and snacks, and there's little places that you can stop to have some drinks or whatever. But this place is sort of deep inside that area, and you take a special boat, and it takes you out to this little island, and there's no electricity on the island. It's entirely a farm to table experience, with all this local agriculture. It's super seasonal and cooked in like highly traditional Mexican ways, like on fire. And they offer different menus throughout the year, depending on sort of like, sort of the season, obviously, but you can expect things like, quesadillas, with squash flowers and spinach, hairloin blue corn dishes, just, all sorts of like really, really traditional things. The coffee's brewed in a clay pot. It's that kind of place, and it's a really unique experience because as you've seen the food cook, they give you a walk around the island where they're growing some of the, they're growing some of the food that they're using there, but they also tell you about sort of their philosophy about keeping this sort of cooking alive, and it's all done in a small group, and then you eat and drink and then be merry, and then they send you on your way. So it's sort of like it's like a 12 to 5 kind of day of eating and hanging out on this little island.
That's cool. I have done. I'm not incorporating anyone here, but a couple of food tours in Malaysia. I did a food tour, and I think food tours are a great thing to do when you have limited time, because if you want to pack in as much exploration as possible, great to have an expert who can really walk you through it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this you get and it's a communal meal. Everybody sits down together that you came on the boat with, and so it's cool. And I'll link in the show notes. It's book it well in advance. It's very popular, but it was a super cool experience, and I'd love to do it again sometime.
Well, Ryan, my first one comes from when Catherine and we took a big trip to Vietnam and Myanmar. And in Vietnam, it was the food was a big part of the draw of coming to Vietnam because it's so fresh. It's very light. It's very aromatic. I always think of Vietnamese food as having like great stacks of herbs and using it against really subtle flavors. And one thing that I hadn't really thought through honestly was what does breakfast look like overseas? And in Vietnam, breakfast is just as savory as it is as lunch or dinner is. And so beginning the day with a big bowl of pho or a similar sort of noodle meaty soup is a really standard thing to do. And so Catherine and I spent most days we would go out to a food stall, and a lot of the guides are basically like, look for where the longest line of local people is, and like that's the that's the soup you want to get. And I remember we went into one where completely just inundated with people who are on their way to work, sitting on these small plastic stools, which is a very common sight for these street stalls. These stools that are really like in the U.S. you would say, oh, that's for like a kindergartner. You just kind of squat on one of those. A giant pot steaming with delicious chicken broth. They put the noodles in. They put aromatics and herbs and spices in live. And I do remember I was asking you about the challenging food. One of the more challenging things that I ever tried, and this was for breakfast, was clotted pig's blood. And it was a little cube of like
Ooh.
a Jello pig's blood. Now,
Yeah.
it's very memorable, which is why I remember it, and it's on this episode. But I have to say, it really did make me think, God, why do we do breakfast like we do? Like, why do we grow up with sugary cereals or like peanut butter toast when we could be having pho for breakfast to really like turn you on to the rest of the day? I think that's a pretty good approach, and I learned that in Vietnam. It's super memorable and inspiring for me.
That is really fun. I think I've seen that blood thing that you're talking about. I think I've avoided that at a Vietnamese place before.
It's very it's I mean jello-y is the right way to say it. And it is like somebody has just put like iron directly into your mouth. But you know what? I was there. I wanted to try it. I didn't get it every day. I got one day in my breakfast, and I was like, okay, now I know what that's like, and it's very iron forward. And I will slip in. There was one other interesting food story from Vietnam, which is there was one night that I did a bunch of research in Hanoi to find a restaurant I thought we would like. And by the time we were through the appetizers, it was very clear this place was like not good. And we debated, God, should we like sit here and suffer through this? I mean, we're in like a great, famous food city. We love Vietnamese food. And we just cut out. We paid the check for just the appetizers. We cut out. We took the hole in the wall method, and we ended up at a place where All they served was, there's room for maybe 3 or 4 people there, and all they served was just a fresh roasted fish stuffed with as much dill as you could possibly fit into that fish. And it was so simple and delicious. And I think that is what really struck me about Vietnamese food, how simple it could be, and it's the quality of the ingredients.
That sounds amazing. My friend just got back from his first trip to Vietnam and will not stop raving about the food and the culture. And I got to go.
I think it's similar to Italy in that you can stumble upon places, and chances are you're going to get a great meal no matter where you are. I feel like in New York you kind of have that, where like you can find places just by happenstance as opposed to needing to do all the research.
Yeah, yeah. That's how you know you're in a great food city.
All right, now what's your second one, Ryan?
So my second one actually comes from my trip to Dubai, which was like 2013. And I had a guide there who was Emirati. And one afternoon, he took me to lunch near the old town. And it was this place where there was no signs. It looked like a house. You kind of walk in and you take your shoes off, and everybody sort of sits on the floor. And there were like, 20, 25 of us, all men. I'm the only guy who's dressed, in my Western suit. And they proceeded to bring out a huge lamb that had been slow cooked all day, that is so soft that when you touch it, it kind of just like the meat just falls away.
Oh my God. Wow.
And, obviously rice and some like breads and a little bit, I remember, like of yogurt. And we served ourselves, and everybody ate with their hands, and we sat on the floor, and it was very quiet, and people talked in like a low whisper to the folks that they knew, but everyone was very nice, and it was a really interesting experience. And then you sort of you got up, and everyone paid as they left, and that was that. It was just such a unique experience. The food was amazing. I certainly had never been in that kind of environment before.
Sounds incredible.
Yeah, it was super cool. So, did you bring a second choice here? Experience?
I did, Ryan. So very similar to how Vietnam is a great country to visit for food experiences. Morocco is another place where when you think back on your memories, you immediately go back to street stalls with all sorts of dried fruit and really rich smelling spices and cold drinks and like freshly poured in front of you. Mint tea is like a very common thing to get when you're staying at a riad. And when Catherine and I were in Fez, I had a local specialty there that really captured my heart and imagination. It's called Bastilla, and it's spelled Pastilla or Bastilla. And it's a traditional Moroccan meat pie that is made with historically pigeon, but today it's mostly with chicken. And it's a very savory, succulent, rich meat pie. I like meat pies generally. They got the good old like British sort of meat pies. But this one is a little more delicate, and it's spiced primarily with cinnamon. So it's a really warm tasting dish. And, I didn't immediately think of chicken and cinnamon as pairing well together, but that with a flaky crust and these almonds on top, it's definitely a little sweeter than I think most like entrees certainly would be in the United States. But that Bastilla has stuck with me. I think about it often. I've even thought about like, what would it take for me to make that Bastilla? Because I feel like I got all the like parts of that here in the U.S. But nothing will sort of bring me back to that Fez restaurant so much like that. And it really captured for me that special Moroccan cuisine.
Well, I think the pigeons in Boston pretty cold right now. Go catch yourself a few.
They're probably easily. Not moving too fast. Now, it looks to me like your third one must have something to do with birds as well.
Yes, it does. So My third one is the classic. I'm back home in the Eastern Shore. It's unfortunately not the time of year, but the classic Eastern Shore sort of Mid Atlantic crab feast. And my favorite place to get this is at the Red Roost, which is in this little town outside in the Eastern Shore, of Maryland. And, this is a place that began as a chicken house, like in the 1940s, and then it was flooded and could no longer be a chicken house. So they turned the area into a campground. But then there was this 1973 oil embargo that made this price of gas go sky high, and nobody was going around camping. So the guys started selling fried chicken just to get some business in the door. And it was so popular. He turned it into a full-on restaurant in 1974. And so when you go here, the thing to get is the all-you-can-eat. And it comes with steamed blue crabs, snow crabs, steamed shrimp, fried chicken, hush puppies, corn on the cob, clam
man, that
strips.
sounds so good.
Clam strips.
This is like the opposite of Vietnamese.
So and they sort of just, you go there, everybody sits in a big table with your friends, and they just start dumping food in front of you as it comes out of the kitchen, hot and fresh. And it's all terrific. I actually like the fried chicken so much that I have to like slow myself down so I don't fill up on it. And then hush puppies are like, delish.
That's like a fried cornmeal ball, basically, right?
Yeah, with a little like powdered sugar on it. Yeah.
Delicious.
Can't go wrong with that. So that is always I try to go once a year, and there's nothing like the old Chesapeake crab feast.
Did you go? Are you going on this trip?
No, they're not open because it's not the time of year. But I went when I was here. I went when I was back in the summer, and it's reason to come back for sure.
For sure.
Yes. And did you bring a third?
Yeah, I didn't want to do a bunch of U.S. ones on this one. I would say hot chicken in Nashville is one I kind of considered putting on here because it's such a great experience. Pizza in New Haven. There's like these classic food experiences. Yeah. This one surprises me with how much it stays with me, but I think it's worth it. So. Catherine and I like to do the national park trips, and we always kind of laugh at lodges in national parks because they're often trying to do this like fancy food that their ingredients aren't like well sourced, and like I just don't need to have like French food when I'm staying at this lodge in the middle of a quite remote national park. And so we always say, we wish they would just do like basics really well. Like just make a really good chili or something like that. And there was one day when we were in Glacier National Park in Montana where we had done an 18-mile hike. And I remember the last couple miles were a struggle. It was like a strenuous mountainous hike, but we had seen mountain goats and we had seen glaciers. And it was like a really crowning achievement day of a hike. And we were both absolutely exhausted. And there's a hotel called the Belton Chalet, which is on one side. Glacier has this going to the Sun Road, which is the major thoroughfare. It takes a long time to traverse it, and Belton Chalet is on one extreme end. And we got a reservation to stay there that night. And in the lodge restaurant, I was just looking for like, oh man, what have I like earned off this 18-mile strenuous hike? Every muscle in my body aching. And I got something I would just like never treat myself to get. I was like, you know what? I'm getting that bacon covered meatloaf. And boy, oh boy, it was such a, talk about quintessential American cuisine. It was such a gut buster, but it felt like a really grand reward to a really satisfying physical activity.
I like, it might surprise you, but I like things wrapped in bacon.
Oh, well, not right now because of Ozempic, but you like a little Ozempic
no, just it would be a couple bites of it, But yeah, no, that sounds fantastic.
It was, it was so indulgent, but I love doing activities like that so that you can indulge.
Yeah, that sounds like something they ate on the Titanic. So
And that's part of what made it go down faster.
exactly.
Hey, a really good meatloaf. I'm not gonna be up here on my congealed pig's blood, look at me kind of thing. No, I won't turn my nose up at a nice bacon covered meatloaf.
Me either. Get a little mac and cheese on the side. You're all set.
Now, Ryan, you successfully got ahead of me where you already knew where one of mine was going to be for this. And
Yes.
you said, you know what? We've both been separately, but we should highlight. I mean, the food in Peru, again, truly one of the world's great cuisines. I don't think I ate a bad meal
Yeah.
in Peru.
Yeah, Peru is an amazing place to eat. Every city has terrific food and different takes, and yeah, I would go to Lima just to eat. So, but this place is really really special, and it's run by the same team.
It's called. It would say its name. It's called Meal.
Yeah,
MIL. So you eat meals there, but it's MIL.
Yeah. And run by the same team as Central, which has been the best restaurant in the world, and that's in Lima, and that's a really extravagant, serious, fine dining, urban experience. And Mill is so much more unique than that, because it is right by those incredible those incredible archaeological site where the Incas would do the experiments on the various types of vegetables at different altitudes.
Yeah, so it's in a place in Peru called Moray, which is far, and it is directly adjacent to lots of Incan sites, and it's got great pride in spotlighting a food that is made from local crops. So corn is super, super prominently featured, as are all different types of potatoes, like tubers you've never dreamed of, but little purple ones, big pink ones. I mean, they're really gorgeous. Lots of different beans, cacao, herbs that they get from the Andes. And again, it's supposed to be this like hyper seasonal, hyper local fare. It's got really limited hours. You book in like a special tasting menu, or they even have an area where they basically treat it like a food lab where they develop new dishes, and you can book in special experiences where they take you through certain types of foodstuffs.
And we got like a half an hour tour at the beginning. They walked us all around the grounds. They showed us where they're growing different things, what the plans are for the space. It actually really reminded me of the restaurant setting in The Menu, the film.
Yeah.
So, that was a really cool part of it too, because it's not just a restaurant. It's not just that they're sourcing from all these different places, but they're actually trying to bring back really old types of corn and types of potatoes. And it's like a project and a restaurant.
Well, and it shows like the breadth of vegetables that you've just like never dreamed about. That was something that really, really struck me. Is like I was looking at this dish going like, I'm never going to see this vegetable again. And they all had different subtle flavor differences. And it really is, again, one of the most memorable food experiences you can have. I remember they played it very beautifully. Sometimes they use edible flowers. But it's all also, while it's very high end and it's extremely thoughtfully done, there is a simplicity of letting the ingredients come through.
Yeah, it's not as fussy as Central, which is like super fussy. This is more like they want you to see the ingredients. They don't want it to be congealed. It's not like Norwegian. There's no smoke coming off of things.
Sure, it's not modern cuisine. Yeah. And even though there's a modern approach to classic ingredients, I guess. So what I would say, but they let
the ingredients shine, right? They let the ingredients shine. Is the
perfect way to say it. And the aesthetics of the place too speak to that, where it's very tasteful and subtle, because I mean it's at 3,600 feet or meters. It's at 3,600 meters above sea level. So you're in the mountains. You're surrounded by these ruins and the celebration of the local culture. It really is one of the great places on earth to go eat.
Yeah, so if you're gonna make the trek all the way to Machu Picchu, that's when you do this. You do this on the way to Machu
Yes,
Picchu
that's right. It is.
or
It's
on
on
the
the
way
way.
back.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
That's right. And definitely book ahead. And it is high dollar. I mean, I think the basic is, over $300 per person.
yeah. I mean, this is this would be one of your major meals of the whole trip for sure.
This was the Kieran and Catherine
Yeah,
honeymoon. So
I mean,
we
this is
shelled
on
out for a
the
meal.
top 100 in the world now. I think it's like climbing up. People are
And
finding
are
out.
you going to be able to collect a star from eating there?
I don't think Michelin's in Peru yet. That's which is
Well,
crazy.
let me tell you, meal will be one of the first places to get it, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
definitely.
Well, Ryan,
And as meal would be many people's last stop in Peru, I think it's time for our last stop.
tell the cabin crew. Sorry. The last stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train.
All right, Ryan, we're here in the last stop. It's the last segment of the show, the final segment of the show. It's my favorite segment. It's your favorite segment. And it's popularly known as the people segment because it's when we come together as a community to share. I mean, I feel like in a way, this has almost been an extended last stop because we've been sharing left and right.
This has been this is fun.
But we've got one last one, not in the food category for either of us, I believe. But it has to, importantly, check one box. It must inspire the spirit of wanderlust within us, even during the workday week. So, Ryan, I'm going to ask you on this Workaday Tuesday recording. Do you have a last stop this week?
I do. I love this study that just came out from a company called Brawl Scottish Tour. They looked at Europe's 30 most popular cities for tourists last year, and they took that list and they also looked at the top 5 attractions and landmarks from each of those cities, and they said, okay, what is the most walkable city of these cities where you can, in the fewest number of miles, see the highest density of the main attractions. So I'm going to let you guess. Just guess a couple European cities that you would think are especially dense and when it comes to sort of the main things you have to see in that city.
I mean, I would say Paris is right up there.
Paris is not in the top 10.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh boy. Am I going to be surprised?
I was surprised, but yeah.
They're
not. They're not except for one. They're not the hugest cities.
I was going to say, like Bruges, Belgium. You can go to all the sites in like 20-minute walk.
Yeah, but that might not be in the top 30 city. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Number one is Istanbul. It's
sure.
1.5 miles between the top 5 attractions.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And then followed by Milan, 2.3 miles, Hamburg, Dublin, which to be fair,
Hamburg, I bet there's an opera every 700 feet there.
Prague, which I love, Amsterdam, totally makes sense. Copenhagen, which is interesting. Birmingham, Frankfurt, and Krakow.
Oh, Birmingham was one of my guesses. I just didn't get to it.
Have you been to Birmingham?
I guess if you only have one thing to go see,
no, they counted the top 5. So,
okay. All right. Okay.
Anyway, I thought it was a fun way to think about walkability of cities. I would think Florence would be on that list because it's also a very dense walkable city. But Kieran, what was your last stop?
So there's been a lot of news lately. I'm following the national park news and how they're dealing with budget cuts and staff shortages and that sort of thing. I'm just curious. I'm not thinking of going to a national park during the high season this year over the summer when they're going to be inundated. And I'm just very anxious to see what happens there. But one thing that is happening at government sites and national parks all over the U.S. is that a lot of the signage is being changed. So all of these places are awash and placards that tell you the history of the place and put it in historical context. Usually, there's been investment really in the past 20 years to bring history from like non-white, non-Western perspectives, et cetera. And
is that changing? People going back.
As you might expect, there's a lot of signage changing. There's a lot of history changing, wording changing. A lot of things about diversity are coming down. And there's a group called Save Our Signs, the Save Our Signs Project, and they've created an online archive of these signs. So they're asking people to take pictures, to contribute them, and they are keeping a record for what used to be in these places, which under any context, I'm happy to have historical records kept. And, will these become useful sometime in the future? I bet some of them probably will. It's an interesting thing. I was reading a New York article by Jill Lepore, who was mentioning that she was talking about how curators are trying to approach the 250th celebration, America's birthday coming up, and how what they were planned has to play within the politics of the time. And, you see that very, very plainly here in these signage struggles. So Save Our Signs, interesting mission. I mean, God bless the people who actually thought to start something like that. And, it's one of those great places where the internet kind of shines.
Yeah. Get a link to that in the show notes, and folks can get involved.
All right, Ryan.
All right, Kiernan. Well, until next time, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken. God, I'm hungry. I'm really, really hungry.
I know.
Maybe there's a Bastille out there in the kitchen.